Hi, my name's Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we're looking at King of Tokyo, designed by Richard Garfield and published by ELO. What we have here is a 2 to 6 player dice rolling and area control game, where you play as Giga Monsters on a rampage, destroying everything in their way. So what is an area control game? Well, as players you're going to have two main tactical choices, that being to inhabit Tokyo with your monster or to be on the outside looking in. And each option is going to have its own pros and cons and routes to victory. What you're effectively participating in here is a Giga Monster or Kaiju Royal Rumble, where it's either going to be a case of last monster standing or the monster with the most savvy to get 20 victory points that's going to be crowned the King of Tokyo. So let's see how this plays and whether this could be the next game for you. So the object of the game is for you to either be the last monster standing, having vanquished all your foes, or to be the first player to get to 20 victory points. Now each player is going to need to bring their own monster figure and associated card, and you're going to start with 10 health and 0 victory points. Now here we see player 1's bringing the King and player 2 has Gigazor, and there are absolutely no points awarded for seeing what inspired those two characters. There are always going to be 3 face-up cards available for you to spend energy to purchase. And before we start with the turn sequence, I just want to familiarise you with the symbols you're going to see on the dice. So the 1, 2 and 3 facings are all going to denote the ability to gain victory points. This paw symbol on the top here denotes damage that you'll do to your foes. The middle heart symbol will allow you to gain health, and the bottom energy symbol will allow you to purchase these cards. So each player turn is very roughly broken down into 4 steps. The first is which is where you're going to take the 6 dice and roll them. You're then going to have the ability to re-roll any or all of those dice on 2 more occasions. So I'm going to keep this 1 damage symbol here and these 2 3 victory point symbols, and then I'm going to decide to re-roll the rest. So here we've got a heart and an energy, so I'm going to decide to keep that energy, and we don't need the extra damage, which I'll come to in a moment, and I'm just going to re-roll these last 2 dice for my last re-roll. That turned out very well, because as I'll explain to you now, we talk about the resolution of the dice, which is step 2. So here, if you get any combination of 3 dice with the same number, you obtain that amount of victory points. So here I'm going to gain 3 victory points. This will get me 2 energy for use later in on the turn, and this symbol here will allow me to do 1 damage to all monsters that are in Tokyo as I'm currently sitting outside. If I was in Tokyo, it would do 1 damage to every monster outside. Now if we see from the game board, there's only 1 spot for monsters if you're playing a game with 1 to 4 players, but there are then 2 spots within Tokyo if you're playing with 5 to 6 players. So as it's the first turn and there's no monster in Tokyo and you've rolled a damage side, you have no choice but to put your monster into Tokyo. So once you've resolved your dice, you then have the option to use any of your energy to purchase the cards that are face up here, and their cost is in the top left hand corner. So we could actually buy this Monster Batteries card that is a keep card, which means it's going to stay and have a permanent effect. Or if we had enough energy, this nuclear power plant requires 6, that has a discard keyword, so it means it's going to have a one-time effect. In this instance, you're going to immediately get 2 victory points and heal 3 damage. So I just want to illustrate some of the other interactions. So let's just say player 2 is playing Gigasaur, rolled these dice. Now we already know that these three one facings are going to get us 1 victory point. But for every other symbol you roll that's the same, you're going to get a further victory point. So here we have 1 plus 1. Now this damage symbol, as we know, is going to do 1 damage to every monster within Tokyo. And at that point, the player who's playing the monsters within Tokyo have the opportunity to cede control of the city. Now they might want to do that because it's not all smooth sailing once you're in there, because although you're going to be doing damage to everyone on the outside, and although at the start of your turn, if you're within Tokyo, you immediately gain 2 victory points, you're also going to be subject to a lot of damage from monsters on the outside. And as well as that, you cannot use these heart symbols to regain health if you have a monster within Tokyo. So the king here is going to cede control of Tokyo to Gigasaur, and remember, as soon as that happens, Gigasaur's player is going to get 1 victory point. So play repeats like this clockwise around the table until you're either the last monster standing, and that could be outside of Tokyo as well, or you're the first player to get to 20 victory points. So that's how this plays. What did I think of it? So as you can see, in terms of gameplay, there's pretty much no frills here, and on each player's turn, although the choices are quite simplistic, there's enough variety there, be it in the way you use the dice, manipulate the dice, or tactically game plan your route to victory to keep things entertaining. It's quick and fast paced, so although your turn's over quickly, you do feel like you've achieved something. And even in a 6-player game, you're going to have things to do on each player's turn, quite often taking damage, but also considering whether or not to cede or go into Tokyo. The fact that there are pretty much completely alternate ways to win the game, be it through ducking and diving to get to 20 victory points first, or to be more aggressive and be the last monster standing, actually displays and is a testament to how fine-tuned the gameplay mechanics are overall, because each option gives you a viable route to victory. So in terms of the look and feel and theme of the game, well, the look and feel, if we start with the box art, is certainly going to grab your attention, and once you get inside the box, it's exactly as you'd expect. Everything's got this sort of bombastic, cartoony art style to it, and be it whether it's your character avatars or the marketplace cards themselves, they're all presented very well. Component quality is of a high standard, but as you can see, there's not much in the box here, so it's certainly nothing that's spectacular. In terms of the theme, well, on the surface, who doesn't want to be part of a massive kaiju Royal Rumble? But there's certainly no depth to that theme. You're not going to find any stories of monsters being teased at school or being told by their parents that they wouldn't amount to nothing, so they go on this murderous rampage when they come of age. But then, that being said, would you expect that from a game this straightforward? So who is this game for? Well, it's pretty much a lightweight game, so it needs to be accessible to anyone. It needs to be quick to be able to get to the table, and not an overly long game. And I'm pleased to say this ticks all those boxes. So this is that sort of party game that you'll get out and can almost guarantee that everyone will enjoy, no matter what the audience. So you might want to consider this if you enjoyed Family Business, published by Mayfair Entertainment. This adds an element of dice rolling to those mechanics. Or if you liked Bang, the dice game, published by DV Ghiocchi. That game adds an element of hidden identity and deduction, whereas this is a bit more chaotic, aggressive and damage based. So in terms of what I like to get out of the game, well, the fact that it's so accessible, the fact that I know that no matter what group of people I've got around to play games, it's going to be a hit. In terms of what I didn't like, well, each of the monsters are completely generic, so the gameplay for each one is exactly the same, which is a little bit of a missed opportunity if you ask me. However, they did quickly release expansions in the form of power-up expansions that addressed this and gave each of the monsters their own identity. So with all that being said, Dice vs Cards are going to give a final score to this wonderfully fun, exceedingly entertaining game of 8 out of 10. Now that's because there is a ceiling to how good these games are, and there is only so much replayability. You're not going to be playing this for 2 to 3 hours in one stretch, and so much depth to the game that prohibits it from getting a higher score. However, that's enough from me. I'll see you next time.